I'm very excited to have this session with you today. It has been something that we have been looking forward to because we know that for some of us in this audience, you're already idea users. You are doing your analytics comfortably in idea. However, we want to take you to the next level of taking advantage of all the automation tools we have in idea environment so that your work can be better managed and you can be more efficient. So welcome to our webinar today. My name is Lois Akinwumi, and I am here with my team, Victor Sereke and Kokuko. We're going to work with you. And then as we progress in the webinar, please feel free to note all your questions and we'll be happy to address it at the end of it. So let's start the ride. I'm going to share my screen with you now. And I'm also going to turn on my camera. Thank you. Okay. Please, can you confirm that you can see my screen? And also confirm if I'm audible enough for you. Hello, Mr. Ilori, Mr. Ojobi, and Amiene. Can you hear me? And can you see my screen?
Yes, we can hear you. We can see your screen.
Yes.
Oh, very good. Very good. Thank you for the confirmation. So, going right ahead, I'm going to work with you using a typical audit environment. In this case, we're going to look at an accounts receivable audit process, which is an aspect of business that's very familiar to the majority of organizations. And we are using a case study here, a company called Bright Ideas. They have the main objective of confirming the validity of the debt in the system so that they can form an opinion on whether some provisions need to be increased and all. Their area of focus is they want to target old invoices, unmatched cash, large balances where customers are in difficulty. Now, for us to start this, I'm going to take you to the idea environment. Here is your idea software version 12.2. It's always encouraged that if you're carrying out an audit process, take advantage of ideas organizational abilities for better focus. And that is the use of projects. When you're carrying out different sections of audit, feel free to create projects specific to that section so that it's easier to manage all the files and resources that you are going to be using for that specific one. In this case, we are doing the accounts receivable audit, so I'm going to create a new project and call it accounts receivable. Since this is not a training, I'm not going to spend time explaining the difference between the two projects you have there, but feel free to look through our past videos or past webinars. Some of them have already addressed some of these things. I'm going to just gloss over it. Now we have the accounts receivable project. Normally, when you create a project, what happens is that it creates subfolders such that when you are analyzing your data, certain reports and items are created, and these are located all in different sections. You are going to have to work with equations, you're going to have to work with macros, exports, results, and other files that do not fall into any of these categories. Proper organization means that each item type should be put in the right location. And that is why when you create a new project, it creates subfolders within it, and you can easily find whatever you're looking for in the folder that contains it. Now, the purpose of our webinar today is to teach you not just how to do accounts receivable audit, but more importantly, to teach you how to automate it as you progress. So when it comes to automation, you have two options. The first one is for you to do the visual script method. The visual script, like the name implies, means you are shielded from the codes that you are developing. However, you are still automating your audit process. Let me show you how the visual script interface looks like. Here, you have either the IDEA script and the visual script. Now, here is your interface of the visual script. Very good. So in the visual script editor, which is what you have here, every item on your menu and your ribbon bar is also listed here. And as you carry out those activities, you will see the project steps here, and the codes that are generated from those activities are hidden from your view. You are shielded from the codes because it's visual. However, the codes are still there. So let's test it and see how it works. For the purpose of this exercise, we are going to be needing two data files. The first is our accounts receivable database containing data as at March 31, 2019. And then we are going to need the customer master file that includes customer address information. You see, those two are your source files, and you need to have it in the project you just created before you can start working with it and automating it. So step one is we are going to access the source files. I'm closing the visual script. Now, for you to access the source files, you can see here that you have a source file section already or folder. When you click on it and you click add file, it takes you to your machine, to the different locations, and you can pick the machine, the location where you need the files you're looking for. So since I'm on my default project, definitely that folder will be empty. So I'm going to move one step back and access another project that would have it. And I'm going to add everything here to this folder. So while you are in IDEA environment, you don't need to go out of it to have the source files. Notice this too, the source files are in different formats. You can import files of different formats. However, when you want to use it inside the IDEA environment for analytics, you need to convert it from the format from which it's coming to an IDEA format. How do we do it? And how do I not just import it into the IDEA format, but automate it such that when new data comes in, now I'm working with a March 31, 2019. If another one comes in that is more updated, maybe June, the next quarter, and it is still having the same name, can I just auto run it and I don't have to go through the process? Yes, yes, you can. So we go back to our visual script. We go to source data, import. Now you have the format. Now we are importing a text file, and the file name for us is accounts receivable 2019. And then next. So here we can see that automatically it has determined that it is a delimited file. However, it allows you the opportunity to change the file if it's not exactly what it is. In this case, it is. It's not just delimited, it's comma delimited, and the first row is field name. We are going to accept this. Now, in this case, it has also given the field names, which is what we have here. And then we are okay with 90% of the field definition. The only one that has a need for minor adjustment is our date field, because it represents the date field in character. So you can actually walk through each of the fields and the character idea tags to it, and where you want to make amendments, it allows you to make amendments. So, hold on, I'll need to mute someone so we can. Thank you. So now we're going to change this from character to date because we're going to do some data analytics on it. And the mask for it is Y in 4 places and then here. We're going to give it a name, accounts receivable. And then generate a flow statistics for it. Now, what has happened? I have imported a file and I have also captured the code behind the import process and saved it on my Visual Scripts so that I would not have to go through this manual process again. So if I want to confirm if this is working, I'll right click on the step and I'll run it. And the status will let me know if it is successful. You can see a check mark there indicating that yes, it is successful. Now, one important thing we must remember is this. If we are going to work with any data given to us, the first step is we must confirm that the data that is supplied is correct and that it has been imported correctly. Never assume that it is okay until you test it. I'm going to show you one of the items we use for testing, and that is your field statistics. So first I have this, I'm going to save this, and I can easily go back later. Just going to give you the name which I created this. Now, if you want to confirm that your data is reliable, the rule is you use proof like your field statistics. Your field statistics runs through all the fields in your database that you have just imported and gives you a general overview of its nature, the content. Now, if you are familiar with what you expect, going through the output of field statistics will let you know if there's an error or if there's an issue. I'll draw your attention to something here. We are going to check for the numeric, the character, and the date. We do not have a time field here. And we're going to confirm if it agrees with what we want. So first, let's run the field statistics on the imported file. Very good. So now we have a general feedback on each of the fields. Like the GST is your tax. There's a tax type that is for GST, but not for this region, and the PST. And then you have your gross amount. Now we are observing here that the total gross amount is $435,000 thereabouts. And then we are learning here that there are no zero items in the gross amount, but we have in the GST tax fields for both of them. We have zero amounts. You can see there are negative values, there are positive values. It gives you the minimum value, it gives you the maximum value, and other such. And then if you look at the character section, the character section lists out two statistics with all the characters. So I'm going to uncheck some fields which is not for our interest now and draw your attention to the paid flag field. This paid flag field helps us know when an invoice is paid and when it has not been paid. And you will notice here that under categories, there are two. Let us drill down and see the content. Notice here that the paid flag has one entry, one category has a blank, and the other one has a P, meaning paid. Ideally, we do not want to have in this accounts receivable file invoices that have been paid. No, we do not. We want only unpaid invoices. So this has helped us to see that this has to be corrected. Now, if we also go to our date, remember we are analyzing our accounts receivable as at the end of the first quarter, which means our latest date should be the 31st. of March 2019. However, you notice here that the date range shows that transactions for April 1 are in this file, and no, we do not need it. So we are seeing a situation where this data that has been given us, the account receivable data that has been given us, is giving us information that does not agree with our request. And that is why when you want to import, always have with you a control data for you to confirm back to see whether it's correct. Always have a control data for you to use to confirm back to what you have an idea on whether it is correct. So what we are expecting is, based on my screen here, the accounts receivable file is 300 records. That's confirmed. However, the gross amount, the tax fields amount are not the same with what you have on idea here, because the amount fields are having a higher figure from what you have on that control. In addition, the date range ought to be between November the 4th of the previous year to and 31st of March the current year, which is not what we have. So that is the essence of confirming if the data you have is correct. The field statistic is just one out of the other items you can use to check your data before you start doing your analysis. Now that we have confirmed that we can't start working on this data because some items here are beyond the range of the period we want to analyze, 1, 2, and that the figures here contain paid invoices. The next thing is we want to exclude such ones. For us to do that, and at the same time, automate the process so we don't have to repeat it manually next time, we open up our visual scripts that was earlier created. And then after the import, we want to do the extract. Okay. First, I have to open the database. Now, the extraction we are going to do first, we want to take out those ones that do not apply to this. And to do that, I'm going to give my file name account receivable March 31. And then the criteria would be the page flag should not have a page tag. And the date should be before April 2019. So this is what we want. We do not want paid invoices, and we do not want dates that are on the 1st of April of the year. It should be before it. And then, because I might have cost to use this equation next time, I'm going to save it. And here I'm going to call it paid before April 1. Now I have my equation there, and subsequent analysis, I can make use of it. I'll validate and exit. And then I want to also create a second file. This time around, it's the file that I need for my analytics. File name will be called ARK and so these ones are the ones I took out from here. Remember, this accounts receivable March 31 are my focus. Invoices that have not been paid as at the end of the first quarter. However, the ones that were paid and are also within the cutoff date, I'm interested in them for future reference. That is why I'm creating this second report. Now, what is the criteria for this? Oh, simply put, the opposite of the first one I created. So if it's the opposite, I need not start calling up the expressions again. I'll simply open up my state equation and then do a negation on it. So this is one way you can be very efficient in your analytics. So I'm just saying the one that is paid, and it is after this, is on this date, not after this date. Validate and negate and this. So now the direct extraction is a very beautiful tool to create sub-reports from a main file. And in one step, you can create as much as 50 extractions. It saves you a lot of time. So the more reports you want to create, if you keep clicking this, it keeps increasing, and just feed in your criteria. And once it's from the same file, you'll be able to achieve your objective. Now I have done an extraction, and that extraction has been automated. And because it is automated, I can use it going forward. So what do? I click on the extraction and run. So you have two options. The first option is you run each step as you go, which is the ideal one, because you will be able to focus on what area needs adjustment. Don't keep building without checking each step. It's good to do a proper debugging and start to checking each item. So right now, I have an automated application that imports my account receivable file, extracts from it the ones that are applicable for a specific period. And going forward, I can always use this script. So I'm going to save it. Okay. Close. That is the first method of Visual Script. But you agree with me that when it comes to automation, when it comes to scripting, when it comes to writing applications, you cannot do without codes. So the next and the second method is how to create idea scripts. Notice here that when you look at your creates, you can either create idea script or Visual Script macro. If you want to create an idea script macro, you can use three methods. The first one is the record macro method. The second one is the project overview method. And the third one is the history log method. Actually, there's a fourth method, which is what? Simply open up a blank page of your idea script and start coding. So that implies that you are an expert programmer. However, the earlier three methods I mentioned are going to write the codes for you as you do the work. It's just that when they write the codes for you, the timing differs, but the coding is not done by you. Idea takes the weight off you and does it itself. So let's start from the first one, which is the record macro option. And my objective for this one is we are going to carry out sampling. We are going to carry out sampling. We want to do record sampling. Okay. Now, for us to do that, record macro implies that you have to first click on your record button. And once you do that, every single step and action you carry out in your project gets tracked. So that implies that you have to be organized, you have to have your steps lined out, and then make sure that those steps are okay. And then you start carrying out the steps once you punch the record button. However, there's natural room for error that we must allow. And when that happens, once you are done with the recording and you stop it and the script is generated for you, you can easily go and make your changes and corrections. Okay, so for us to do that now, we are going to click on my record button and then open up my account. No, not my accounts receivable file, my accounts receivable master one, which is the one we are focusing on. And in this case, we want to create a record sample of items for confirmation. So I will go to my analysis, and here I'm going to click on my sample. And this one is the random. We want 20 in our sample size. And we want to pick a specific set. We want it to start from a specific set. So I'm going to work on that set, but it should scan through all this, and it should not pick a record more than once. So I'm not going to take allow duplicate records. The name of my file is going to be sample of accounts receivable. Beautiful. Now, what have I done? I have created a sampling of some accounts receivable that I intend to confirm in my audit process. Going forward, I have a script for it. Now, if I want this script to be saved, I will go back there and click on the record macro again, and it gives me the option of, do you want it in visual script or do you want it in idea script? I'm going to pick the idea script option since you have seen how the visual script looks like and how it works in our earlier exercise. Here is your script. You have your call line, and then in the random sample function, first you opened your database, which is this name in red, and then you carried out the task called random sample, and you included all fields in your output. And the output name was sample of accounts receivable. The task was performed, and it had 20 sample size starting from the first to the end with the specific seed. And then at the end, you released your object and you opened the database. Simple. So you can see that even though your idea script has to do with codes, the codes are close to English. It's something you can relate to. It's something user-friendly. Just remember the rules that have to do with building it. Now I'm going to save this. Call it record macro to reflect the method I use to work with it. Of course, when you are naming your applications and your macros, you will name it to reflect the work it's doing and the output. Well, I'm naming it in this way for the purpose of this. And of course, once you have it saved and you close it, can I run it again? Yes, you can. So for you to access it for this purpose, you'll simply come to open macro and then run the desired one. And then it gives you an updated report. Because it's existing, so it gives me this count, and then I have this. If I don't want to go through this method to access the macros, remember where we have our items organized, you can see as I'm working, my items are being populated, my subfolders are being populated. So I'm not the one that will decide the location of those items, but because it has created the folder for that purpose. So at the end of the day, if I want to access that item again, I don't have to look in just a central folder and start scouting through, and when you have hundreds of files, it takes a long time. This one, you know that, if it's macro file I'm looking for, it will be my macro subfolder. If it's my import definitions, it will be in the import definitions folder. If it's equations, it will be here. So they start getting populated and you can easily access it for future reference. So the macros we created are here. If you want to access it from here, you can also access it to edit it, to run it, and you can even share it with your team using the email option. So that's the second method. The third method we want to show you today is the project overview method of creating your script. And in this case, our exercise involves confirming accounts instead of invoices. Remember, In our earlier exercise, we had a sample of our accounts receivable here. And our intention is we want to send out confirmation for these ones. However, we now feel that it is better that we send confirmations to all customers in the sample that with all their outstanding invoices. Meaning that right now my sample is saying that customer N005 has this invoice outstanding and I ought to check and confirm. Or let me use one of a higher figure. Customer with account number W025 has this invoice unpaid and this is the figure I need to confirm. But is it possible? Is it possible that this account number, this customer has other outstanding invoices? Yes, very possible. So this exercise is going to pull out all outstanding invoices for each of these accounts. Sorry, I need to mute or avoid distraction. It's muted now. Thank you. Okay, so for us to do that, we are going to achieve this objective and at the same time do what? Automate it using the project overview window. What is the project overview? The project overview is a beautiful part of IDEA that creates an audit trail that nobody can tamper with. Because every single activity you perform in the project is trapped in the project overview window. Even deleted files. Yes, you heard me right. Even when you delete a database, there is still the history in that project overview window. And the beauty of it is that there is continuity in the project, even when a crucial team member has to leave without passing on knowledge or doing a proper handover. And because everything is trapped in the project overview, you can easily go there and select the reports that you want to automate for future use, and then go ahead and automate it. With this explanation, that implies that unlike the record macro that you first start to record before you carry out your analytics, in project overview, you don't start the record before, you don't start the automation first. Rather, they don't run parallel. In the record macro, they run parallel. You are automating, you are recording, you're automating as you're carrying out your analytics. But in project overview, you do your analytics first, and then you convert it to your macro. So let's start. I have my 20 accounts, and these are the sampled ones, the sampled invoices that need confirmation. However, I want to expand it. I want all the outstanding invoices for these 20 accounts. So the first thing I'll do is I'm going to call up my join. And for me to call up my join, that means I have to use the main file, not the sample file. The main file is my account receivable management one. So I have my main file here, and I'm going to join it with the sampled file. So there it is. And then the common field between the two, what is common is the account number. Now, for my secondary file, secondary database, I do not need those fields there because they are pretty much the same fields you have in this main file. I'm only interested in the fact that these are the invoices that we identified. So what will I do? Naturally, I would want to clear all the fields. But you know what? In IDEA, it doesn't allow you to carry out a join and exclude all fields from the secondary database. You just have to pick one. So if I go back to my fields, even though I cleared all, what happened? Selected all again. So what I would do instead is I would pick one. That's the account number. I'll leave my join type to the default one, which is matches only, because I'm interested in only where those account numbers in my sample match what I have in the larger file. And then my output database will be called sampled account. account. Beautiful. So what do we see here? We see that truly those 20 accounts had more than 20 outstanding invoices, meaning one per account. Because in the sampled accounts, we are having 129 records here at the bottom right. You can see it here at the bottom right. 129 records. You can also see the number of records from here. 129 records. So that means some accounts are having multiples. Why don't we do a visual confirmation? To do this, let's tile these databases and pick the sampled one as well. So using our highest value account W025, let's see. We're going to filter this. So per the sampling, it was just one invoice that was pulled out. However, could it be more? Indeed, it is more, because you see here that this account has outstanding invoices that are more than what you have there. 11 in total. 11 in total. And this same 11, of course, is what you have in the main file here. So if I filter this in the main file, it's the 11 you have here. So you have the main one that was sampled out randomly, and then you have others. And instead of confirming just this one invoice, our join has pulled out all outstanding invoices for that account, which we intend to confirm. So now I have this report. I'm happy with it. Going forward, I want that to be my standard of operation, meaning that even when I sample out a specific number for confirmation purposes, I would like to be thorough and make sure that any outstanding invoice for that number is attended to. So what do? I want to automate. How do I automate? Now that I've carried out my report and I'm happy with it, I will simply go to my project overview. My project overview will give me the list of all activities project. Then I'll pick what I want. So this is a very small project overview simply because this project was just created. If you have, for those of you who are using IDEA currently, try it. Go back to your IDEA project. Open up your project over. First, you will need to have a few minutes patience because since it's large, it's going to like run for, it'll take about 2 minutes. Let me say 2 minutes for it to open. And then when it opens, it will be so loaded. So in cases like that, what do? You can filter by different parameters. You can filter for a period by date. You can filter by a subfolder. You can filter by the user you're interested in. So if, for instance, the user or someone who has left the team and you need to analyze what he has done to try to understand it, then you filter by that specific user. And then you can choose not to show the deleted databases. Create other filters that meet your own specific needs. So in this case, I am interested in my final report, which is this sampled account, and I want to automate it. Step 1 is to create macro button. I want it to be IDEA script, and then I will move where I have it, which is this. Now, if I just pick this, it will automate just the join step. But if I want it to pick everything that led to the join step, I will simply come and say highlight inherited task. It notifies me that some tasks in the node will not be run. And do you know what tasks were? For instance, the field statistics, which we did earlier. Automatically, it does not code it. However, when you come for your training, we are going to teach you other ways in which you can capture certain tasks that are not automatically coded and still fix it into your IDEA application. Click on finish and say yes, we need to close this for it to be generated. So how does it look? This is it. This is the way it looks. It's actually having more steps than the random record because we chose to go down the history lane of that file and capture every single thing that was created. So when you choose that method, please remember that you might have recourse to make some changes, to clean up the file, remove things you don't want. So let's take a quick look. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 call lines. Are they all valid? Yes. This call line is for importing the text file, so it's okay. This call line is for doing the extraction for accounts receivable. File we're interested in, it's okay. This second extraction was for the one we wouldn't need for now, but it's for reference purposes. That's fine. Then we also did the random sample. But remember that random sample, we've done it earlier. However, it's here for a good reason because this is a source file for what we are going to use. Meaning that if I want to carry out this last part, which is the join, it will need my primary database, which is this, and my secondary database. Now, if I take out this code simply because it's another script, I'm putting myself at risk. Meaning that if that other script is not run, this file will not exist for me to use it in my join, and that is where error will come in. So for me to play safe, I'm going to leave this item here so it can run. Now, remember when we carried out the extraction, we carried it out in one step. However, when it's coding it, it codes it separately. But guess what? You can actually blend it into one step here. How? Let me show you. I have this DB, this first one, and I have the second one. So I'll take this first one, this second one, and put it right by the side of the second and give it a unique name. And then I'm going to take the extraction line as well, copy it and put it right after this second extraction line and also give it its unique name. And let me see, is there any other thing? No, that's all. So now that we have this, we don't need this section again because we have taken the two items that would have been needed and I've put it here. So I have two options. Option one is to make my script less, busy and wordy. I could choose to delete this and also come here and delete the call line. Alternatively, I can just come here and deactivate the call line. Once I deactivate this call line by turning it into a comment, this line of code will not run. But for the purpose of this exercise, let's just delete it. And because I'm deleting it, I'm also going to delete it, although it doesn't matter. Since I'm going to comment. And then I will save this. We created this through the project overview method, so let's have this. So now we have this, and it's always good to please run your script again, just to be on the safe side. Just to be on the safe side. Always good. Debug your script. Debug. And when you are writing your script and you run it on your machine, and it's okay, all the development machine, the machine where it was initially created, do remember to take it out of that environment and run it on a different environment that does not have some files that have been assumed there, so that you can know what files must exist on any machine or any system that is going to run that application. So don't just test it on the system where it was developed, test it outside that system, outside. I apologize, I had a power break. Please confirm if you can hear me again now. Yes. Okay, thank
Yes,
you
we
very
can.
much.
We can
All
hear
right,
you.
thank you. So now we are done with it. Now let's move to the last method of automation, and that is the history log. You see, every anytime you create a database in IDEA, a history is generated for that database specifically. Every activity performed on that database is captured in the history. So for instance, you have this sampled account that was just created. If you look at the property section, do you notice the item history? Yes. So if you click on this history, every single thing you saw on the project overview side, you will find it here. And each of those steps, when you expand it, it comes with the codes that were used to generate it here. So these codes, you can actually take it and build your application with it. So we are going to use this for our next analysis, and that is our age analysis. So in this case, we want to produce an age analysis of outstanding invoices at year end in order to identify the number and value of old debts and to make the necessary provisions in the final account for potential write-offs. So let's start. So we'll go back to our main file, which is our accounts receivable March 31. Then we'll call up our aging function. Now, the cutoff date is going to be April 1, 2019. The field we are going to age on is our date field. And then the amount to total is the gross amount. So I'm going to make the intervals to remain in days, but just add one to each of those. And then I'm just interested in the first quarter and then an extra month in the other two that would have made it 6 months. No, we don't want it. So we are changing it to 0. Okay. Please allow. Thank you. Thank you. How to switch. Thank you. To generate a detailed aging database called aging detail. And then our result will be called aging analysis. Then we click OK. So the history logs, like the project overview, assumes that you must carry out the analytics first, and then when you're happy with the final report, you take the codes attached to that final report and automate it. So what do we have here? We have our outstanding debts in the system, aged monthly, and we can see that most of it looks healthy, and the outstanding ones that are beyond it. So let me explain these items so it can make sense to you. Let's have this. Very good. So where you have number of records here, that's the number of records in a specified interval. So you can see here that most of our accounts fall into the first month, which is good. Percentage of records is the percentage of this number, 64% falls into the current. Then debit means the debit value for the records in the interval. And then, of course, the credit is the credit value, and then the percentage for both. Then the net value takes the debit and the credit and nets it up, and then you have the true result, which is. Now, additionally, it produces a summary for the interval. That is items that are dated on or after the aging date. Items that are older than the final one, that is for this, and then if they have invalid or missing date, and then the totals. So based on what we have here, does it agree with what the report says? So we want to reconcile this aging analysis report with the aging interval totals produced from the accounts receivable subledger. So from the subledger, these are the figures we have. You can see that for the current you have 277. Actually, it shouldn't be 277. Don't sorry, we're not going to use this. My apologies. We are going to compare it with what we have on the idea. So take note of these figures. Sorry, we shouldn't have this. Right? Okay. So what you should have is just this. And then if you take a look at it, so let's just take one, the one after 20 days, which is 2,345.54, and then the current one 277. So let's go back to compare. So you have this figure, and then you have this 2,345. So yes, it agrees. It's just this one that doesn't agree. And what can you now do? You can drill down, create a report out of it, extract it, and do your analysis. And where the issue is. Now you have created this. You want to automate it. How do you do it? You come to the history part of our results, and then right click and copy all idea scripts if you so choose, or if you are just interested in the aging part, you can also just simply say copy for the selected part. So for simplicity, let's just copy for the selected. So you have this. So going forward, once you update this with the right content and the right period, you can always age it. So I'm going to save this as history log. That's how we got it. Now, let me take you back to that report. Here. For this result we just had now, if you preview it, because you might want to print it. So if you preview it, you will have this report, aging analysis report, that has the name by which you prepared the input from this information. However, do you notice that the report name and the period is blank? It is blank because we have not yet put the necessary information that should reflect on all our reports. So let's go back to where you ought to be. Whenever you create a project, you know that reports will come out of this project. So always remember to populate what the report name should reflect and the period it will cover. So here, have account analysis. And then for the period, March 31, 2019. So let's go back and see if it is reflecting. Very good, it's reflecting. You can choose to either print this or save it as a PDF using this option. Export it as a PDF. So once you click on this, you can call it AR, and you already have it now. If you want to view the PDF file, you come to your library where you have results. That's where you have your AR. So you just click on it and click on view. It will open it up using your PDF application. There you have it. Okay. So these are the ways in which you can automate your process. So now we have succeeded in creating 4 applications, namely your history log. We used this method. We used the history log, the project overview, the record macro method, and of course the visual script. Now that's a major step, but that's not the end. The idea behind automating an application is you want to share that application with your team. And some of us, this audience, actually have teams working in different sites, but they have certain skills that are applicable. In cases like that, how do you share these scripts with your team without the risk of them tampering with the code unintentionally. Unintentionally. So, for instance, if you share this script with your team and without realizing it, someone does this, without realizing it, I've created just a simple space in that living room. Or maybe I just come outside and I do a full stop. Look at how tiny it is. That small little thing can actually cause headache, especially when you have an application that has a lot of code line. Because now, because I have this, if I try running this application, I have error. The, the good thing is, IDEA will tell you what line the error is on. So I'll just come to and start searching. Oh, it will even highlight it for you. It will highlight it for you, but it is not always that. Sometimes it could be logical error. It could be anything. So if you have developed an application, you have tested it both in your environment, outside your environment, and you're sure it's okay now, please, before you share it to your team, compile it. Yes, convert it to an executable file. How do we do that? You just open up the macro you want to compile, click on your file and say build that macro. So in this case, I'm building my project overview, at the end of which it will become an executable. Once I have done this, what happens? What happens is I can share this application with anybody who has a machine that has IDEA installed. And when that person is using it, he doesn't need to have, he can't even access the file. He cannot access it. So I have it there, it's existing, but I cannot access it to make change. So when you want to make change, you have to revert back to the person, the developer who worked on it, the super user. And once that person makes the necessary changes to once, he will recompile it again and share it back to the team. So that way, the person would not have access to the codes and make changes to everything. Okay, so basically, this is how automation is done in IDEA. And I would like to have your feedback. Thank you very much for the time you have taken to discuss, sit and go through this. Please let me have your feedback. Thank you. Does anybody have questions, comments, observations? For some of us who are already IDEA users, do you have any area you would like to, see how it is treated? Okay. So if you don't have any, I want to let you know that this recording is going to be available. Oh, okay. Nene, is that you?
No, it's exactly what you were saying. We're going to ask about the recording and about yeah. Thanks.
Because we have actually gotten feedback even before the webinar that for some of those who would have loved to attend, they have the program, they are part of the training program. So because of it, we'll have this recording, and the recording is going to be put on all our social media handles. I don't know if you have it, but let me share my screen again and show you. So here are our handles. So you can go to our website, allow for about 24 hours thereabouts for it to be uploaded there. But the other ones going to be uploaded to the YouTube. Please stay in touch with us in any of these, yeah, because we always have something we want to share, and because we want to make sure that your investment remains active and relevant for you. There's so much value you can get from your idea investment. Really, it's a very powerful tool. So also feel free to look at the past webinars and videos that have been done, because you might have one or two that meets your own specific need and requirements. But if you have that, be able to help you to remain active by doing software. And of course, we're only a call away in case you want us to interact with you personally. So I would like to thank you once again for your time, and I wish you a beautiful rest of the day ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. We're grateful.